room and said, do we think that we'll be able to work together, the 5 of us along with 55 others over time, to be able to make something out of nothing and try to do something that I think will not only speak to the importance of parks in our community, but speak to the importance of relationships in our community. This is such a small town in so many ways, and we don't need to be part of the larger conversation where everybody disrespects and dislikes each other. We can show in key times that we can get along and we can get from here to there. And I'll note that even when Council President Johnson and I brought forward something that folks weren't thrilled about, the mayor, Councilmember Quincy, and Councilmember Glidden stepped up and said, we want to work with you to try to figure this out. There might have been some words back and forth privately about how we got to where we were, but in the end, the goal was the same, right? I mean, I do think, and I say honestly, and I think the council president will say the same thing. I mean, Councilmember Glidden and Johnson and Hodges and I have worked together for almost more than 10 years. We like each other, and we respect each other, and we can work together, and I think that that's what happened over time, and that's why you see a lot of agreement here today. We might have taken the ball to the 60-yard line, but it took a lot of people to get it over the edge. I'm not a sports person. I don't know what that metaphor would be.
Over the edge?
Sorry. I'm a recreation person and an environment person. So in the end, a lot of us talk about doing things, but most of us want to actually do things and not talk about doing things. And I think that this effort today, more than almost any that I've been a part of over a long period of time, says something about doing things. I do want to take a moment to thank a few people, my own personally, including Mark Ruff. I don't know if he's here today. That's unfortunate. He came in as our new CFO and immediately had to figure out, quite frankly, how to bring us all together. And I think he did an amazing job, and that is in no small part to Spencer Cronk, our city coordinator, who understands the role of the unequal of all equals, the person at the top, the one who needs to figure out how to get everyone on the same page. And I think you did a great job with that, Spencer. I want to thank the city attorney and Brian Rice for hours and hours of late night emails back and forth trying to get to language that everyone could agree to. It wasn't perfect, but it happened. I also want to give a special shout out to my friend Mark Andrew, the first person I knew when I ran for office, the only one of dozens of elected officials who actually stood up and supported me when every other incumbent supported my opponent. I think your passion for this issue and for so many social justice issues has really made an indelible mark on what's happening here today, and I want to thank you for that personally. And then lastly, I just want to thank everyone for their role. This is something that takes a lot of cooks in the kitchen. This is not just about me or Jane or Barb or Carol. It's about the collective will to get something done, and I think everyone played a part in it, and I appreciate it, and I'm just really, really thankful we made it to today.
Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a speech, but as I was noticing all the council members who clicked in here to speak, and I know the council president's probably going to add some words at the end, I thought I better say something just to recognize that we are united. And I have an interesting perspective on this because I really didn't have my sleeves rolled up and I wasn't in on the nitty gritty of all of this. And like a lot of you, I was probably watching what was happening, and the park board moved forward with something. The mayor vetoed it. A few council members came up with some idea. And I have to tell you, about 3 weeks ago, I was imagining kind of a disastrous train wreck in our future because so many people seem to be in so many different places. And I was thinking, there's no way we're going to get this done in the timeline that we said that we're going to get this done. And by golly, you proved me wrong, and we got it done. And I'm a little bit flabbergasted. And actually, I'm even more flabbergasted because when I got on the council, the gap, and it wasn't necessarily a funding gap, but the gap between the park board and the city was enormous. And there were questions about, what kind of future could we ever work together in that. So this is pretty amazing that we have a consensus here, and I think it shows that you all were able to be very nimble. We were able to get it done quickly. Somehow we were open-minded enough. We were flexible enough. And we all came together with a solution that we can't only live with, but apparently listening to all these speeches, we think is absolutely fantastic and maybe the best thing that we've ever done. So, of course, I'm trying to figure out what the heck is the formula that got us here so we can replicate this for our next problem and our next problem. So let's think about that. And that there definitely were some key ingredients here. And some of it was probably some interesting dynamics of the threat of the ballot initiative, the community organizing, the strong mayor making a veto, and a weak mayor system, mind you. But anyway, whatever it is, you can maybe help me figure out what that formula is so we can replicate it. Because I think if we can do it with this, and what we did here today shows that when we want to, when we need to, when the stars align somehow, we can come together and we can get these kinds of things done. And in this case, we did it, and it's pretty amazing. And thank you, everybody, for all the great work that you did to put into this. I kept saying, I'm happy to support something if I forget exactly the phrases, but if you can get Liz and the mayor and the council president to walk in my office all together, united, and say, here, this is what we think is going to work best, I'm there. And lo and behold, you did it, and I'm here. Thank you.
And further discussion? Seeing none, I just am so pleased that we've come to this day. It was a long haul, but good things take a long time to work out sometimes. I did just want to reflect on some of the discussion that's gone on about needs across our city. And I think about yesterday, actually, day before yesterday, people talked about Farview Park. And one of the most vivid memories as I think about our parks is actually a scene from Farview Park, which is a wonderful park in North Minneapolis. And actually, it has had a significant amount of investment in it in the recent past. It has a beautiful gymnasium that's dedicated to one of the longtime volunteer coaches that serves our city so well. I see my constituent, Michael Tate, here, who is a longtime coach, volunteer in our system. Farview has this beautiful gymnasium. It also has a brand new wading pool. And it also has a brand new field due to the generosity of the Phillips family. And I think, what's the name of that baseball player? Cal Ripken. He has beautiful blue eyes. That's what I remember about Cal Ripken. Anyway. Greatest eyes. Yeah. So anyway, but Farview Park, the thing that I remember the most about Farview Park is walking in there and the park staff there. They are the most welcoming park staff that you can find on the planet Earth. And I remember walking there one day, and I was there for a meeting or something, and the woman that was working at the desk, a little girl walked in, and she said she was there coming, I think a school bus had dropped her off, and she was popping in after school. And, the staff at the desk said, how's your day going? How did your school day go? And this little girl said, well, I got some homework to do. And she said, well, just come on over here. It can't be too tough, and she helped her with that stuff. And kids come into these parks, they get an after school snack. In the summers, that's where they get their lunch. It is amazing the work that goes on in our parks. And so I just really wanted to say that the parks are so important. And I agree with my colleagues who have said this is the single best thing and biggest thing that this council and this park board has done for equity in our city. It's real. Councilmember Fry talks about action on equity. This is putting the money where the mouth is. And that is what's going to happen. I also want to talk about, the parks in general, the first view of the parks, looking at where the investments have happened. They have happened in communities that have really been challenged with poverty. So we have a chance to ensure that this system, which has so many facilities, so many places that need more investment, actually see that investment happen. And so we will have the pleasure, again, of watching kids walk to the new $6 million Weber Natural Pond. Biggest investment, biggest single investment in a neighborhood park that this park system has ever done. Thank you. I will have the pleasure of watching the kids walk and ride their bikes to Falwell Park to play football. They have football teams like nobody's business, again, with these great volunteers that help them. So it is a wonderful part of our city. It is so important. And this is an action that takes into account the needs of the city to invest in our road system and then also invest in this great park system that is so very important in a way that will improve our communities and offer benefits for us all. You know, Councilmember Bender, you pointed out how road improvements are different now. And I'm meeting with staff right now. 42nd Avenue North is going to get reconstructed. That's a major arterial street in our neighborhoods. And the difference between just coming through and doing a road repaving, a road reconstruction, compared to what it was 15 years ago, it's a very deliberative process. You look and you think, and how can you get the sidewalks better, and how do you figure out the challenges of accommodating bikers and pedestrians? What are the facilities along that route that you have to take care of? So you're right, Councilmember Bender, the roadways are so important to our city. So these two investments tied together are going to make a huge difference in our city. So I celebrate today. And I just did want to mention, I'm so sorry, I saw our colleague, Park Commissioner Brad Warren come in, so thank you for joining us today. And Mr. David Wheeler, who is a Board of Estimate and Taxation member, has joined us as well. So we celebrate today. It is a great day. So I'm going to ask clerk to call the roll on item number, I'm past my agenda here, 2 on committee of the whole.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That item is approved. We're going to have a little reception, room 319, after the council meeting. So I invite you all to join us over there where we have a little bit more on our agenda, including a resolution for the Ecuadorian community that we have to deal with. But please, all of you who are here, join us in room 319. So we could dispense with the rest of our agenda, which should be less talky than this item. So the next report that we have is the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. There are 23 other important items on our agenda for this morning. In the interest of time, I'll move the entire agenda, items 1 through 23.
Councilmember Goodman has moved the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee report. Anyone want to pull anything off or discuss any of those items? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing 4 items forward for approval. One is approving the City Council appointment of Joseph Desclos to the Public Health Advisory Committee. A second item is accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Human Services for tobacco compliance. The third item is accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Health for lead poisoning intervention. And the fourth item is authorizing contracts with Pillsbury United Communities and Goodwill Industries for parent support and education services, and I'll move all 4 items.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Report. Anyone want to pull any of those items off or discuss anything? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Intergovernmental Relations Report. That committee is chaired by Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you. We have 2 items. The first is supporting the United Black Legislative Agenda. And the second is approving limiting the total number of Minneapolis sister cities to 12 to focus on our current resources on, for city connections currently attached to the city. And I'll move both items.
Councilmember Glidden has moved the Intergovernmental Relations Report. Any discussion on either of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam President. Item number 4 from the Community Development Regulatory Services agenda was moved forward out of our committee without recommendation. Since then, we've reached a deal with the potential buyer, so I will simply move that we adopt the staff recommendation.
Back to the Community Development Regulatory Services Report on item 4. Councilmember Fry is moving to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we need to move to reconsider, Mr. Carl, or?
Madam President, in the interest of time, unless anyone objects, we'll assume that the motion that passed unanimously covers the change that Councilmember Fry has proposed. So I would ask if there are any objections.
Does anyone object to that? Seeing none, then we're fine. Thank you, Councilmember Fry. Next, we have the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. That report will be given by Councilmember Yang, who chairs the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. We have one item today. It's regarding travel-related costs, donation acceptance for the police chief to attend the 2016 Harvard Public Safety Summit, and I move that item for approval.
Councilmember Yang has moved the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Transportation Public Works Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 7 items forward today for approval. They all reflect seasonal work of the department. I will highlight number 4, which is a cooperative agreement with the Minnesota Ballpark Authority for pedestrian lighting on 6th Avenue North. And basically, this action will accept the gift from that authority to pay for all the decorative lighting for that road project. With that, Madam President, I move all 7 items.
Councilmember Reich has moved the Transportation Public Works Report. Any discussion on those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Ways and Means Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to I'll just move the entire Ways and Means Committee report. There are 22 items on it, but I would like to highlight item number 21, which is the authorizing the acceptance of the low bid of Meyer Contracting for in the amount of nearly $29 million. This is for furnishing and delivering all labor, materials, and incidental necessary for the Nicollet Mall reconstruction, roadway and streetscape for the Minneapolis Public Works Department. It's a significant step forward in making sure that Nicollet Mall is reconstructed to the level of that the design was created for, and I just wanted to highlight that, but I'd like to move all 22 items for approval.
Councilmember Quincy has moved the Ways and Means Report. Anyone want to pull anything off or discuss any of those items? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to briefly comment on the Nicollet Mall.
Why don't you go ahead, please?
Thank you. This is a major investment. It's $50 million, 21.5 from the state, 2.5 from the city, and another 25 million in assessments. We initially hit some snags due to some concerns that every single other company in the entire city is experiencing, which is shortage of both supplies as well as workers. And I just want to thank our city staff for doing an extraordinary job. One, with issuing the initial RFP, which struggled. But second, going back to the drawing board, figuring it out, taking the pavers out of the equation, moving to poured concrete, and then getting a proposal that ultimately came forward with multiple bidders at a price that we can actually afford. Due to their work, this project is going to, one, get funded, but two, get completed. So this is a really major investment for our city, and I think will be, emblematic of everything that's great about Minneapolis.
Any further discussion on the Ways and Means report? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
No on item 2, aye on all others.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes on the report except for number 2, which has 12 ayes and 1 nay.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Zoning and Planning Committee report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 5 items from Zoning and Planning. Item number 1 is denying an appeal for a site plan review. Items 2 and 3 are approvals for an apartment building in Whittier. Item 4 is the landmark designation of the Sumner T. McKnight Mansion. And item number 5 is denying a petition for the environmental assessment worksheet for the Alatis Tower. I would briefly note that on item number 5, that is not approvals for any land use applications for that project, simply a legal decision about the need to do an environmental assessment. I'll move all 5 items.
Councilmember Bender has moved the Zoning and Planning report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar, and the first is a introduction pursuant to notice, motion by Councilmember Fry to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to open-air motor vehicle parking lots for first reading and referral to the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee. And this is about authorized parking lots near the U.S. Bank Stadium. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Glidden moves to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code, amending the city charter relating to officers and other employees classified service for first reading and referral to the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Any discussion on that proposed charter amendment? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Under resolutions, we have the 2016 National Gun Violence Awareness Orange Walk Day honorary resolution, and that is passage of a resolution declaring June 2nd, 2016 to be National Gun Violence Orange Walk Day. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have National Police Week 2016 honorary resolution, passage of a resolution recognizing National Police Week 2016 and honoring the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We also have the 2016 Public Service Recognition Week honorary resolution and its passage of a resolution declaring the week of May 8th through 14th, 2016 as Public Service Recognition Week. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We have a 2016 National Women's Lung Health Week honorary resolution, passage of a resolution on recognizing National Women's Lung Health Week. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the Prince Rogers Nelson. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, but let's just do this. We have this won't take very long, I don't think. Prince Rogers Nelson honorary resolution. We have a passage of a resolution honoring Prince Rogers Nelson. And we have had a great loss in our community and to the world, to the music world, to fans all over, in the death of Prince Rogers Nelson, who was a young man who grew up in our community, brought fame and recognition to our city, fostered a whole new industry, the Minneapolis sound. And so we're going to read a resolution honoring Prince Rogers Nelson. And it's a motion by Councilmember Glidden and Yang. So I'm going to start, we have some whereases, and we're going to start down with Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. This is honoring Prince Rogers Nelson. Whereas, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. And
whereas Prince Rogers Nelson was born June 7th, 1958 in North Minneapolis to a jazz musician, John Nelson, and a social worker and singer, Maddie Della Shaw.
Whereas Prince attended Bryant Junior High School and graduated from Central High School in South Minneapolis.
Whereas from his first performance at the Capri Theater to the nights that he took over First Avenue, Prince recorded and performed in the Twin Cities for over 40 years.
And whereas Prince was an Academy Award, Golden Globe, 7-time Grammy, and 4-time MTV Video Music Award winning musician and artist.
Okay.
And whereas as a musician, filmmaker, philanthropist, and entrepreneur, Prince was a visionary who was always at the forefront of change and advocacy.
And whereas Prince promoted Black empowerment and mentored new artists, particularly female artists.
And whereas Prince fostered the Minneapolis sound and cultivated a diverse musical scene in Minneapolis, which he brought to national prominence with his film Purple Rain.
And whereas, because of Prince and his artistry, we can contemplate the entire universe, or just one star, or just how far is the walk for the morning papers.
And whereas, because of Prince's extraordinary music talent manifested itself through several alter egos, including Jamie Starr, Joey Coco, Alexander Nevermind, Christopher, and Camila. And
whereas Prince collaborated with artists as diverse as Madonna, The Bangles, Morris Day and the Time, Mavis Staples, Chaka Khan, Sheena Easton, Tevin Campbell, and Alicia Keys. And
whereas Prince lived with an intellect and a savoir-faire, and no one in the universe will ever compare. And
whereas Prince has inspired generations of musicians in Minnesota and in the world.
And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minneapolis that Prince's legacy to Minneapolis and to music be recognized. Thank you. And a special thanks to Sean Broom, who drafted this, I think, loving but fun resolution of our appreciation.
We'll take a moment of silence to remember Prince Rogers Nelson. Thank you. And then we have the resolution honoring the Ecuadorian community and calling on President Obama to grant temporary protected status to the victims of the Ecuadorian community. And I apologize to the people that were here. I did not realize that we should have done this at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm delighted that you stayed for our meeting. So Councilmember Cano, would you like to go down to the front? And she has first.
Excuse me. Councilmember Fry, are you going to join me?
Oh.
Buenos días, mi estimada comunidad. Por favor, si se pueden parar aquí enfrente para hacer la ceremonia y la presentación de la resolución. Do you have another? Oh, so Jacob, we'll both read this. Turn on mic. Here you go. So what I wanted to... So As some of you know, the Ecuadorian community has recently been struggling with the impacts of a devastating earthquake that has hit their country. And in Minnesota, in Minneapolis specifically, we have the greatest honor to have the Ecuadorian community be the second largest Latino population in our state. And it's not very often that we get to recognize you in this way and work with you in this way. So it was really important for us to be able to do this work with you today. So we're going to go ahead and read this resolution, and then afterwards we can make some comments and share the microphone with some of our esteemed Ecuadorian community members who are here today.
Whereas the Ecuadorian community is an essential part of Minneapolis and contributes to the rich diversity of our city through their spirit of entrepreneurship, participation in civic life, and unflagging work ethic that makes Minneapolis a world-class gastronomical city.
La comunidad ecuatoriana es una parte esencial de Minneapolis y contribuye a la diversidad de nuestra ciudad por medio de su espíritu de negociantes, su participación cívica y su espíritu tan trabajador.
And whereas through businesses like Chimborazo, La Colonia, Los Andes, Ecuadorian Express Taxi, media outlets like Maranela and Equasonido radio stations, homegrown community developers like Molina Realtors, innumerable construction companies, the St. Cyril and Methodius Church led by Reverend Edison Galarza, and the annual Ecuadorian Festival, Ecuadorians in Minneapolis have generously shared their culture with the Minneapolis neighbors for decades.
Por medio de negocios como Chimborazo, La Colonia, Los Andes, Ecuadorian Express Taxi, los medios de comunicación Marianela Radio, Ecuasonida Radio y developers como Molina Realtors, unas compañías de construcción, la Iglesia San Cyril con el reverendo Edison Galarza, el evento anual de Ecuador, que es un festival, la comunidad ecuatoriana ha compartido muy generosamente su cultura con la gente de Minneapolis.
Whereas the Honorary Consul of Ecuador, Silvia Andrade Ontaneda, maintains an office on East Hennepin Avenue in the 3rd Ward to ensure that Ecuadorian Minnesotans remain connected with the government and have access to necessary consular services.
La cónsul honoraria Silvia Andrade Ontoñeda y sus oficinas que están en el 3er Ward de la ciudad están aquí para representar a la comunidad ecuatoriana para asegurarse que se mantengan conectados al gobierno de su país y tengan acceso a los servicios necesarios del consular.
Whereas thousands of Ecuadorian people have made Minneapolis their home, many of whom live in Northeast and South Minneapolis and have contributed to the revitalization of Central Avenue and East Lake Street in Councilmember Reich's ward.
Miles de ecuatorianos han hecho Minneapolis su hogar y muchos de ellos viven en el sur y en el norte de la ciudad y han contribuido a la revitalización de las avenidas Central y de la calle Lake.
Whereas on April 16th, 2016, Ecuador was hit by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that killed more than 650 people, with many hundreds still missing, causing extensive damage to infrastructure and displaced thousands of families.
El 16 de abril del 2016, el país de Ecuador fue atacado por un terremoto muy grande que mató a más de 650 personas, con cientos que aún están sin encontrarse y ha causado mucho.
Whereas, since hearing of this tragedy, the Ecuadorian community has come together with leadership from the Ecuadorian consulate to help contribute to the relief effort, with Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa estimates will cost more than $3 billion.
Desde que pasó esa tragedia, la comunidad ecuatoriana se ha unido con el liderazgo de la consular para ayudar a recaudar fondos, a mandar a Ecuador, los cuales el presidente Rafael Correa está estimando que van a costar más de $3 billones.
Whereas the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department has been working closely with the Ecuadorian community and has funded a temporary coordinator position to assist with alignment of relief efforts in Minneapolis.
La ciudad de Minneapolis, por medio del Departamento de Neighborhood y Community Relations Department, ha estado trabajando muy cercanamente con la comunidad ecuatoriana para apoyar estos esfuerzos y ha podido dar una posición de coordinador para asistir a estos esfuerzos de donación.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minneapolis that the city calls on institutions and residents of Minneapolis to come together and support our Ecuadorian neighbors by contributing to their relief efforts.
Entonces, la ciudad de Minneapolis está pidiendo a todas las instituciones y los residentes de nuestra ciudad que se unan a estos esfuerzos y apoyen a sus vecinos ecuatorianos.
Be it further resolved that the City of Minneapolis calls on President Barack Obama to provide immediate and ongoing assistance to those impacted by this tragedy and to use his executive power to grant temporary protected status to people affected by the earthquake and to immediately cease the deportation of Ecuadorian nationals.
También estamos pidiendo que el presidente Barack Obama nos ayude en esta situación para otorgar un estatus inmigratorio temporario a las personas que han sido impactadas por este terremoto y que también inmediatamente deje de deportar a la gente de Ecuador.
Be it further resolved that the City Council directs the City Clerk to send copies of this resolution to our congressional delegation and to President Barack Obama.
Le pedimos también que el City Council mande una copia de esta resolución y este mensaje al presidente Barack Obama. Y con eso queremos compartir el micrófono con nuestras comunidades aquí para que nos den unas cuantas palabras, ya que sea en inglés o en español, como ustedes quieran. Y vamos a empezar con la cónsul Silvia Ontoñeda.
Buenas tardes, compañeros ecuatorianos, hermanos ecuatorianos. Good morning, my brothers and sisters, Ecuadorian brothers and sisters. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, City Council and Park Recreation Board. I want to thank for the wonderful leadership of your City Council, our City Council, Alondra Cano. She has been key to this effort. We are here because of her. And we are also here because of the powerful, amazing leadership of my Ecuadorian community, who I am very proud to represent. We estimate that we are more than 30,000 Ecuadorians. We don't exactly know the number, but and we have been always in the shadow because we have been. We are very proud to belong to the Latin American community, but we have our own identity. We are South Americans. Ecuador is a little tiny country in South America, in between Colombia and Peru. And you're not going to believe me, but out of 15 million people, 40,000 live here, or 30 to 40,000 live in Minneapolis. Why Minneapolis? I don't understand. But, well, I do understand. I do understand because of people like you, because of cities like Minneapolis that make us feel welcome. And we are about 2.5 million Ecuadorians around the world and 1.5 here in the United States. And we are entrepreneurs. We are hardworking people. You can't imagine how they do to come all the way from Ecuador to here. Isn't that, just map Ecuador in your minds, and it's just amazing. And the way they do it so courageously with kids, with families. And they come here and they establish and they say, we're going to work 24 hours a day. Because I've seen mothers working 20 hours a day. Parents, not only to support their families here, but to support their families down in Ecuador. And with all those challenges, they remain here because of the support of you. And yes, I represent, as I said, primarily the community, the Ecuadorian community. I represent the government of Ecuador, who is struggling right now with the resources to rebuild the tragedy. But we're here and we're happy to be recognized because the efforts that the people out of Ecuador do to sustain the economy, that's the second revenue. After the oil revenue, the second revenue is the revenue that comes from the migrants. So that is not only being here, making a difference for you guys to sustain the economy of the United States, but it's also sustaining their own country. So thank you so much for acknowledging. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mayor, because I know that one day you will give us the pleasure of having a community center that can probably be called Ecuador, because we really need it. Thank you.
I wanted to thank everybody. Quiero agradecer a la comunidad. Mi nombre es Paola Núñez Ovitz. I'm an Ecuadorian living here for 20 years. Soy una ecuatoriana que ha vivido aquí en Minneapolis, Minnesota por 20 años. And I want to thank the great effort that my community members have put to make this possible, and to the council members, Fry and Cano, to pass this resolution. I feel like tragedy sometimes brings humanity together, and no matter what part of the world you're from, here we unite together to support each other. And gracias to have us to be here, part of this community, and support us in this time of need. And again, it's a retribution that is mucho. Muchas gracias.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jorge Panchi, and I'm very proud to be part of this, the Ecuador community, but in particular, part of the Minnesota and Minneapolis community. I want to thank to the mayor, the councilors, and in particular, I want to thank to Alondra Cano and Mariana Espinosa, which has been a good support to us, to our community, and all the times. And I just want to say to everybody, this is a very difficult moment for our country, for our people, our families there, and we are here to do our best we can do to help us, our families there. And we want to thank you to all your support, and we know that we live here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis in particular, because people like you, they're very care and very friendly to us. Thank you very much for support us.
So thank you so much for being here. And there is a radiothon that's going to be taking donations. It's 1400 AM, La Raza. It'll be in Spanish, but if you can still plug in, you'll be able to get information on how to donate to the efforts. And we will continue to support you to figure out how to make sure that things get down to Ecuador, to the right people, to make sure that the families who are being impacted and suffering can get some help. Councilmember, did you want to say something? A few words?
Just briefly. I had the honor of attending an event at La Colonia about a week ago, which was to both raise funds as well as awareness and togetherness surrounding the earthquake that happened in Ecuador. And the strength of the community, both in numbers in Minneapolis, above 40,000, as well as the constant embeddedness of community, was really impressive. It was an excellent feeling, and it was wonderful to sort of take part in that event. We've got a large Ecuadorian population in the city, but specifically in both the 3rd and 1st wards. I know Councilmember Reich, there's a church in his ward, so St. Cyril, which is a perfect example of how communities can come together and find common ground. And so, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And please join us. Please join us in 319. We have 2 resolutions then to approve: the Prince Rogers Nelson Honorary Resolution and the Ecuadorian Community Honorary Resolution. Any discussion on those items? I don't think it's Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Under unfinished business, we have the 20-year Neighborhood Park Plan Resolution. Any discussion on that resolution?
Madam President.
We move to delete.
Madam President.
Yep.
The motion on this should be to delete from the agenda.
Okay. Motion to delete the 20-year Neighborhood Park Plan Resolution. All in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the prevailing wage requirements, and that needs to be postponed for another cycle. So anything, Councilmember Yang? No? Any discussion on the postponement of the number 2, prevailing wage requirements? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Announcements are next. And Councilmember Palmisano has an announcement. And then Councilmember Yang. Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you. Just to briefly share, next week is Municipal Clerks Week, recognized around the world for local government clerks. And Mr. Carl, our beloved clerk, will be hosting a lunch next Thursday for current and former employees of the Office of the City Clerk, which is an annual tradition that brings back alumni and celebrates their work on behalf of the city and its residents. I have to admit, before I started here as a council member, I had no idea all the work that a city government's clerk and a clerk's office does. And boy, has that been an eye-opening experience. So as you may know or may not know, municipal clerks manage elections that provide equal and partial access to the ballot box. And as we know, they help to expand that in every way possible. They assist access to our legislative processes so residents can influence public policies and regulations, and they hold our records and data so the public can hold us all accountable. In other words, nothing works without the clerks. Thank you to all our clerks for the amazing work they do behind the scenes to make Minneapolis work efficiently and effectively, not just for us, but for all Minneapolis residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to our clerks. Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. I will try to be really quick here. Tomorrow, April 30th, the North Minneapolis garage sale crawl is happening up on the north side. There are wards 4 and 5. There are probably about 20 plus garage sales that are happening up there. And so I welcome anybody coming up to North Minneapolis to join in on this. And I just want to give a shout out to my policy aide, Sean Broom, for drafting the Prince resolution, but also just dressing so nicely today in purple for that resolution.
And I would just mention, as part of the garage crawl, there also is a bake sale at the Goddess of Glass on 44th and Penn Osseo Road. I'm making Rice Krispie bars because I don't bake very well, but it's a great sale. Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks. I just wanted to let people know that the Southside community is hosting a block party that's a family-friendly event in celebration of Prince, and the event will be at Sabathani Community Center, 310 East 38th Street. Sabathani is the former Bryant Junior High where Prince attended, and so there are many community members who are reflecting right now on their citywide, but in this community who went to junior high and high school, and I think it will be a fun event for anyone to attend. It goes from 1 until 8 o'clock, 1 until 8 p.m., with a lot of familiar music and artists there honoring Prince.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.